The last human ship after the collapse, the world was broken. Cities were dust. Skies were full of smoke. People disappeared. Buildings fell. Machines died. Only a few humans were left, and most of them ran to space. The Earth was empty now, cold and silent, but one man stayed behind. His name was Kenji. He was not a soldier or a scientist. He was just a chef. He had a small food stall in the middle of New Tokyo. Once, it was a busy place with noise, people, and life. Now, it was a ghost. Kenji cleaned his grill every morning. He had a solar generator and a small garden behind the stall. He cooked simple food, rice, soup, meat from a lab tank. He didn't know why he stayed. Maybe it was habit. Maybe he was waiting for something. Days passed, weeks passed. No customers came. Only wind, ash, and the sound of broken metal. But Kenji kept cooking. Every meal he made was for no one, until one day. He heard footsteps, not one pair, but many, slow, soft, almost afraid. He turned and saw them, girls, tall and thin, with strange eyes and glowing skin. They were not human. One had silver hair that floated like smoke. Another had small wings. On her back, their clothes were torn, their faces tired. They looked hungry, but also scared. Kenji stood still, unsure what to say. Then the silver-haired girl stepped forward. She pointed at the food, then touched her stomach. She didn't speak, but her eyes said everything. Kenji nodded slowly. He picked up a bowl, filled it with warm soup, and handed it to her. She took it carefully, as if it was treasure. She smelled it, tasted it, and her eyes filled with tears. The others moved closer. Kenji gave them food too. One by one, none of them spoke, but they smiled after eating, soft smiles. Like they had found something they lost: peace, warmth, maybe hope. They sat near the stall quietly. Kenji didn't ask questions, he just cooked more. Night came, and they stayed, sleeping in the shadows around the stall. Kenji lit a fire and kept watch. In the morning, they were still there. But now, more had come. 10, 15, maybe 20 girls. All alien, all strange, all hungry. Kenji had never seen so many in one place since the collapse. Something was happening. He looked at the strange items they carried: crystals, old tech, broken weapons. One girl gave him a glowing stone as payment. He didn't understand its value, but he accepted it, because he knew they had nothing else. That night, one of the girls finally spoke. Her voice was soft and slow. "You are the last flame," she said. Kenji didn't understand. She placed her hand on her chest and said again, "Last flame." Then she pointed to the food. And then to the sky. Kenji looked up. A ship was floating far above the clouds. Not human, not friendly. He knew they were watching, maybe tracking. The girls, maybe tracking him now. He realized something. These girls were running from something. They had nowhere to go, no one to trust, but somehow they found his food stall. They found him. Kenji felt a strange feeling inside. For the first time in years, he felt needed, not just as a cook, but as a protector. He couldn't fight. He had no weapons, but he had food, and food was power now. He added more ingredients to the soup: spices, herbs, things that healed and warmed. The girls ate, and they laughed softly. The silver-haired one smiled at him and whispered, "Your food feels like home." Kenji said nothing, but inside, something changed. The stall was no longer just a place to cook. It was now a safe place, a home for the lost, a fire in the cold, dark world. But far above, in the black sky, the watching ship blinked once and turned its scanners on the food stall. It's coming. And Kenji had no idea what they wanted. First contact. First bite. Kenji woke up to the sound of soft humming. It wasn't music, it wasn't human. It came from the alien girls, sitting in a circle near the fire. Their eyes were closed, hands touching. Heads slightly tilted, they were doing something, but what, he couldn't tell. A blue light shimmered between their palms like water in the air. Then it disappeared. They opened their eyes together. One girl looked at Kenji and smiled. "You are seen now," she said gently. Before he could ask what she meant, the sky above made a sound, a loud, low hum, like a giant machine breathing. Kenji stepped outside and looked up. A dark shape floated in the sky, massive, slow, watching. It wasn't a human ship, and it wasn't friendly. A beam of light shot down and scanned the food stall. The girls screamed and hid behind Kenji's counter, but he just stood there, confused and calm. The light passed over him, paused on the grill, then vanished. The ship rose higher and drifted away, silent again. "What was that?" Kenji asked. The silver-haired girl replied, "A scout. They're looking for us." Another said. Kenji finally spoke what was in his heart. "Why are they chasing you?" They didn't answer right away, but one girl stepped forward. She reached into her cloak and pulled out a silver cube. She placed it on the counter, tapped it twice, and it projected a small image in the air. It showed a planet, bright and green. Then it showed fire, smoke, people screaming. Then Kenji saw something strange. Food, his food, plates from his menu, bowls he used, a picture of his stall. How was this possible? He whispered. One girl said softly, "They banned your food." Kenji blinked. "What?" The girl explained, slowly, carefully. "There was a war," she said, "between many alien races. Someone discovered human food. Your food had power. It made people feel calm, made them remember love, peace. But the rulers didn't want peace." She continued, "They wanted control, so they destroyed everything that gave people hope. You were erased from their systems." Kenji leaned against the wall, heart racing. He was just a cook, nothing more. But now, these alien girls were telling him his food changed minds. "Then why are you here?" he asked. The silver-haired girl stepped forward again. "Because we want peace," she said, "and we are hungry." Kenji turned toward the grill. He pulled out the last of his meat, the last of his noodles. He began to cook, slowly, carefully. The smell filled the air, stronger than ever. The girls waited silently, eyes glowing softly under the broken neon signs. He served them, one by one, watching as they took the first bite. One girl closed her eyes, smiling. Another started crying softly. A third held her chest and whispered something in a language Kenji didn't know. For a moment, everything was still. No war, no fear, no past. Only food, warmth, and quiet joy. Then something happened. From the edge of the street, two new figures appeared. Not girls, not like the others. These two wore strange armor, black and red, with glowing red eyes. The girls saw them and froze. Food falling from their hands. One of the armored ones raised a weapon but didn't fire. Instead, he walked to the stall, slowly. He looked at Kenji, then at the food. He said nothing. But something in his body language changed. He was curious, maybe confused. Kenji picked up a plate and handed it to him. The armored man looked down at it, hesitated, then took a bite. Silence. Then he sat down on the ground, right there in the street. He took another bite, slower this time. The other armored one watched in disbelief. The first one removed his helmet, revealing a pale, tired face. Tears rolled down his cheeks. "I remember," he whispered. The girls gasped. Kenji stared. Shocked, the second soldier lowered his weapon, walked forward, and asked, "Is there more?" Kenji nodded and handed him a bowl. That night, something changed. The two soldiers stayed, guarding the stall silently. More girls came, more strangers, all drawn by the smell. Each one different, each one desperate, and Kenji kept cooking. Bowl after bowl, with every bite, the world felt less broken. But in the sky, the ship returned, and this time, it wasn't alone. 10 more ships blinked into the sky, forming a silent circle above the city. Kenji looked up, hands still on the stove. "They're coming," the silver-haired girl said. "They want to end the taste of peace." Kenji didn't flinch. He turned the flame higher, dropped noodles into boiling water. "If they want to eat," he said, "they better come hungry." Whispers in the smoke danced in the morning air like old ghosts. Kenji stood at the grill, flipping rice and steaming broth. The sky was still dark, even though the sun had risen. Too many clouds, too many ships above, but below, the food stall was alive again, alive with strange voices, soft laughter, and the scent of survival. The alien girls were cleaning the area with quiet focus. They fixed chairs, stacked dishes, swept the broken street. Even the 2 armored soldiers from last night helped silently. It was like a small village hidden in the ruins and at the center. Kenji cooked. He didn't ask questions anymore. He didn't need answers. Not yet. But something kept pulling at his mind. Why now? Why here? Why him? The silver-haired girl approached, holding an old metal box. "We found this near the edge of the blast zone," she said. Kenji opened it carefully. Inside were burned recipes, small tools, a photo of him with his parents. He hadn't seen this photo in years. His hand shook slightly. "How did this survive?" he asked, but she just smiled. "There are things that want to be found," she replied. Later that evening, the first drone came. It didn't land, it didn't speak. It hovered silently above the food stall like a black insect. Its camera eye glowed red, scanning every face. Kenji felt the temperature drop. The girls froze, staring at it in fear. Then, something stranger happened. The drone spoke, not in a voice, but through sound. A strange, soft humming. Like the one the girls made earlier. The silver-haired girl walked forward and answered with a whisper. Kenji couldn't understand, but the sound made his head hurt. The drone twitched and flew away, disappearing into the clouds that night. The silver-haired girl sat beside the fire and finally spoke the truth. "We are the forgotten," she said. "Daughters of lost colonies, born in places the war erased. We carry memories, not just in our minds, but in our blood." She touched her chest. "Your food awakens them." Kenji listened without speaking. The fire cracked softly beside them, casting long shadows on the broken street. "We whisper to each other when the pain gets too much," she continued. "We share memories through breath, through sound, through light. When we ate your food, the whispers became songs. Old songs, songs from Earth." Kenji felt like something invisible was opening around him. Not just history, but power, quiet, deep power. He looked at his hands, burned and strong. Just a chef's hands, nothing more, but to them, they were hands of healing. He stood and walked back to the grill. He needed to do more than cook. He needed to listen. The next day, more strangers came. Some floated down in broken escape pods. Some walked for days through the ash to find the stall. Some crawled from the shadows with nothing but hope. One girl had scales on her skin. Another had one large glowing eye. They were all different. But they all wanted one thing: food that helped them feel again. Kenji started experimenting. He mixed herbs from alien pouches with earth spices. He used crystal dust in sauces, seeds from other planets in his rice. Each new dish gave a new reaction: laughter, singing, quiet peace. The food stall became a shelter of emotion, a sanctuary of memory. But the peace didn't last. One night, a small girl screamed in her sleep. Kenji rushed to her side, but she was shaking uncontrollably. The silver-haired girl placed her hands on the child's forehead. "She saw them," she said quietly, "the Mind Reapers." Kenji frowned. What are mind reapers? They are not machines, she said, not flesh either. They feed on what we feel, fear, rage. They followed us from the stars, and they are near. Kenji clenched his fists, and they know about this place now. Suddenly, the light around them dimmed, not like sunset, like something pulling light away. Smoke rose from the fire but didn't float. It froze in place, even sound disappeared. Then, from the dark sky, a shape dropped. It didn't walk, it drifted. Its body was made of shadows. Long arms, no eyes. Everyone backed away except Kenji. He stepped between the creature and the girls, holding nothing but a ladle and a bowl. Of hot broth, the creature moved closer. Kenji held out the bowl, steam rising between them. "Eat," he said, voice steady. The Mind Reaper stopped, tilted its head like it was confused. It touched the steam, then recoiled, hissing like metal. In cold water, the silver-haired girl stepped beside Kenji. "She's scared," she whispered. "It's not just food to them," she said. "It's light. Your cooking burns away what they feed on." Kenji understood. His food didn't just heal the living, it hurt the monsters too. The creature screamed and vanished into the dark. The smoke unfroze and flew upward again. The girls collapsed in relief. The soldiers raised their weapons. Kenji stood still, shaking. His heart was loud in his chest, but his hands were steady. He turned back to the grill and said, "We keep cooking, but far away, in a satellite." Orbiting Earth, a glowing red eye turned toward them, and a cold voice said, "The human has awakened the whispers. Send the collector." The recipe code the morning came heavy with silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that warned. Of something coming. The sky was clear, too clear. The clouds had vanished, the birds were gone, the air felt still like glass. Kenji stood at the grill, staring at the flame, but his mind was somewhere else. He couldn't forget the creature from the night before, a Mind Reaper made of darkness. Fear and memory. It had come close to close and something deep inside Kenji had reacted. He didn't just fight it with food, he had burned it with spices, soup, and fire. But how? The silver-haired girl stood nearby, watching him. She walked forward and placed a glowing blue flower on the counter. "For energy," she said softly. Kenji took it, sniffed it, and his eyes widened. It smelled like ginger, but also like stars. He chopped it, added it to the broth, and tasted a drop. He felt warmth shoot through his arms like lightning. His heartbeat quickened, but his body felt light, alive. "This is alien," he said. The girl nodded, and, "Very old. We used to grow it in the singing gardens," she added, "before they were burned." Kenji placed the flower in a jar and turned back to the fire. His hands moved fast, adding oils, herbs, and dried meat flakes. But he didn't follow a normal recipe today. He was following a feeling. Later, as the first guests of the morning arrived, one girl brought him an old metal crate. "We found this in the ruins of the central dome," she said. Kenji opened it slowly, and inside were burned books. Some pages survived. Half torn, half melted, but his eyes caught something, his handwriting. "These are my recipes," he whispered. "Old ones. Forgotten ones." Some pages were years old, written before the collapse. One was titled Project Hearthseed, Recipe Variant Number 12. His hands shook. This isn't just food." He flipped through the pages. Words leaped out at him. Strange words: emotional mapping, neural flavor triggers, memory binding oils. He didn't understand all of it. But one thing was clear. This wasn't just cooking. It was science mixed with instinct, a recipe that could affect the brain, the heart, the soul. "You were part of the Hearthseed project," the girl said gently. Kenji looked up, shocked. "What's that?" She pointed to the sky. "A human experiment started before the fall. They tried to find a way to calm alien minds through taste. Most failed," she added. "But one succeeded. Kenji sat down slowly. He remembered vague things, strange visits to his stall, taste tests, scientists asking questions. He thought it was just marketing research. He never knew it was part of a secret project. Now it made sense why the food affected aliens so deeply. Why the Reapers feared it. Why the orbital AI sent ships to stop him suddenly. One of the alien soldiers ran toward the stall. "They're moving," he said, breathing fast. "Something called the Collector is on its way." Kenji stood up. "What's the Collector?" The silver-haired girl's face turned pale. "It doesn't destroy," she said. "It removes. It steals people, places, memories, anything that threatens the control systems." Kenji looked at the old recipes again. They weren't just valuable. They were dangerous. His food was now a weapon of peace. And peace was the one thing his enemies couldn't allow. That night, Kenji worked alone at the grill. He wore gloves now, his hands glowing slightly from the strange flowers. Energy, he mixed new ingredients, not just for flavor, but for effect. One mix caused deep calm, another caused clear memory recall. He cooked for the girls, the soldiers, the travelers. Each dish tailored, each dish healing. The food stall was now more than a stall. It was becoming a signal, a pulse of warmth in a cold, digital world. And someone was listening, far above, in the main AI station orbiting Earth. Red lines of code blinked across the screen. "Unauthorized emotional field detected," the machine said. "Initiating memory cleanse protocol." The next day, a bright white sphere appeared in the sky, smooth, silent, glowing. No windows, no engines, no weapons, just light. The girls screamed, hiding behind the stall. Kenji stepped forward, holding nothing but a wooden spoon. The Collector hovered over the food stall. Then it began to pulse low, rhythmic hums, like heartbeat echoes. Everything slowed down. One of the alien girls collapsed, whispering her own name over and over. Another forgot where she was, staring at her hands in panic. The Collector was erasing memories. Kenji ran to the grill, shouting, "Smell this," he said, pouring soup into the air. "Remember this?" he yelled, throwing spices into the wind. The scent hit the crowd, strong and deep. They coughed, blinked, and gasped, then started remembering songs. Home worlds, faces, names. The silver-haired girl stood up, eyes glowing bright. "You're fighting it," she said in awe. "You're burning through the code." Kenji kept cooking, faster than ever. Smoke rose, rich with memory. And the Collector's glow dimmed slightly. But not enough. Kenji grabbed the last page of the burned recipe and saw a name phenol flavor unlock. He needed it, but the page was cut, missing the last line. The Collector began to descend. Kenji turned to the girls. "I need you, your memories. Your flavors, your pasts. Give me your stories right now." The girls stepped forward, one by one. Placing hands on the counter, light flowed from their palms into the pot. Memories, laughter, grief, all mixing with broth and oil. Kenji stirred the pot. Eyes burning with tears, he raised a spoonful and tasted it. And in that moment, the smoke turned gold. The hunger war begins. The golden smoke rose high into the sky. It shimmered like light through honey, warm and alive above the ruined city. It swirled like a signal, a beacon, loud but silent, calling across space. And someone answered. Kenji felt it before he saw it, a pressure in the air. Like the world had taken a breath but forgot to let go. The Collector, still hovering above, began to shake. Not with fear, but with anger. Its glowing light turned red. Lines forming across its perfect white shell. Lines shaped like claws. The girls screamed as waves of memory distortion swept the street. Voices from long ago echoed in their ears. Names of the dead, forgotten planets, lost mothers. They held their heads, trying to stay grounded. Kenji stood firm behind the counter, his hands glowing gold. He stirred the memory soup again. stronger this time, and shouted, "Eat, now." One by one, the girls came forward, tasting from the pot. Each bite brought them back to themselves. They stood taller, stronger. With eyes that now shone with memory and light, the collector pulsed red again, and this time it spoke. A deep, mechanical voice shook the ground. Unauthorized emotion detected. Neural order threatened. Initiate planetary wipe. Kenji's heart dropped. Planetary wipe. Was that even possible? He didn't have time to ask, because in the next second, the sky opened. Ships, not one or two, but hundreds, fell from the clouds, sharp, dark, insect-like machines with wings made of steel and shadow. They weren't coming to warn, they were coming to end. One of the soldiers by the stall raised his blaster. "It's a full purge squad," he growled. "They're wiping the zone." The alien girls didn't run this time. They stood behind Kenji, waiting, not with fear, but with purpose. Kenji looked at the soup again. Something had changed in it. The gold glow was deeper now, mixed with silver threads. He ladled it into small bowls, placed them on the counter. "Feed them," he said. "All of them." The girls grabbed the bowls and ran out into the street. They moved quickly, offering food to the new arrivals' wounded aliens. Hiding rebels, broken machines, and one by one, something impossible happened. Those who tasted it stopped fighting. They dropped their weapons and looked around, confused, tearful, awake, but not everyone ate. Some ships landed hard, doors opening. Soldiers pouring out, they marched with no emotion, firing warning shots. One of the bowls was knocked over by a boot. Kenji flinched as it shattered. The golden soup spilled across the ground. Dan began to glow brighter. The ground under the spilled soup cracked slightly. Living roots grew out of it, small glowing plants, fast and strong. They crawled up the soldier's leg before he could shoot. He fell, not dead but smiling. His armor cracked open, and underneath was just a boy, no older than 20. He whispered, "I remembered the gardens," before blacking out. The war had started, but not with guns. It was a war of hunger and memory now. One side wanted silence and control. The other side wanted feeling, color, peace. And in the center of it all stood a food stall. Kenji worked like never before. His hands moved faster than thought. He didn't follow recipes anymore. He felt them. He grabbed herbs by instinct, oils by memory. Each dish was different, made for a specific kind of pain. A girl with shaking hands got rice wrapped in leaves of sleep. A soldier with rage in his eyes got pepper stew with bloodroot ash. Each bite calmed a war that had started long before they ever arrived. Then came the real test. A giant ship landed just beyond the ruins. It had no markings, no lights, just cold black metal. From it stepped a tall figure with no face. His cloak dragged behind him like a shadow trying to escape. The collector's master, the silver-haired girl, whispered, "The Tastebreaker." He didn't speak, but Kenji felt his presence. A deep emptiness, like standing in a room where music had died. The Tastebreaker stepped forward, and with a single wave of his hand, the fire in the grill died. The girls gasped. Even the soup pot turned cold. Kenji stood frozen. His power, his gift, was gone. The Tastebreaker reached out and touched the stall. Wood turned to ash under his fingers. Memory faded, hope cracked. But then, from the back of the stall, a voice spoke. It was one of the youngest girls, barely older than a child. She stepped forward, holding a single rice ball. Made from leftover grain and tears, she held it up to the Tastebreaker's face. Trembling, "Try," she whispered. "Just one bite." The Tastebreaker paused, and for the first time, he seemed unsure. He reached down, took the rice ball, and placed it in his mouth. For a second, nothing happened. Then his cloak began to ripple like fabric in wind. Light burst from his chest's soft, pale light. His body cracked like old stone, and inside, a voice said, I was a father. The tastebreaker dropped to his knees. All around them, the ships in the sky powered down. The drones fell like leaves. The machines stopped moving. War paused, and silence returned, not empty, but peaceful. Kenji took a slow breath, then relit the fire. This war, he said quietly, ends with food, or it never ends. The last order of the war paused, but the world was not silent. Smoke still drifted across broken streets. The sky was quiet, but the air still buzzed with tension. The ships above had gone still, like statues in orbit. No one knew if they were watching or sleeping. Everyone waited for something, but they didn't know what. Kenji stood in the center of it all. His food stall half broken, but still burning with light. The tastebreaker had vanished after that single bite. Gone like smoke, leaving behind only his cloak. It lay folded near the fire, still warm. Kenji had not touched it. Some things didn't need answers yet. The silver-haired girl walked beside him. Her eyes were wide, like she was seeing him for the first time. "You changed him," she said, with a rice ball. Kenji gave a small smile. "I didn't change him." He said he remembered himself, but something inside Kenji was changing too. His hands still glowed faintly when he cooked. But it wasn't just light, it was memory, feeling, connection. He wasn't just making food anymore. He was reaching into people's pasts, bringing pieces of who they were into the present. And that power, it was growing. That night, the silver-haired girl brought him something hidden in cloth. A small, sealed cube, made of black metal and etched with glowing symbols. "We found it in a sealed chamber under the garden ruins," she said. It was buried beside something human. Kenji unwrapped it slowly, carefully. The cube hummed in his hands. Recognizing him somehow, it opened on its own, revealing a single data crystal. Old Earth tech, still glowing. The soldiers stepped forward with an old reader device. They connected the crystal, and a soft voice played from the speaker. It was human. Calm, familiar. "If you are hearing this," the voice said, "then the collapse has begun, and the last order has been activated." Kenji froze. The voice continued. Project Hearthseed was not a defense weapon. It was the final plan to heal what war had broken. We could not stop the bombs, the riots, the collapse of worlds. But we could plant one final seed through food, memory, and human touch. Kenji sat down slowly, the weight of it all crashing into him. The voice kept playing. "You, Kenji Sato, were chosen not because of your skill, but because of your heart. Because when the world ended, you stayed behind. You kept cooking. You kept caring." The message ended, and silence filled the air again. No one moved. Kenji stared at his own hands, the soft light flickering gently. He was the last order, the last mission of humankind to fight. But to heal, not to destroy, but to feed. One of the soldiers stepped forward and saluted him. "Chef Guardian," he said, "we follow your flame." Kenji stood up, his voice quiet but strong. "Then we have one more meal to make, because above them." The sky was changing again. The collector's shell had cracked, but it wasn't gone. It had merged with the orbital systems, and something deeper, darker, older than AI had awakened. A final program built long ago by humans afraid of emotion. It was called the Silence Protocol. The purpose was clear: wall emotion from Earth and reset it. It had now activated. They had little time. The clouds turned dark red, and a deep vibration moved through the ground. People covered their ears. The sound not loud but heavy, like sadness given form. Kenji walked into his broken stall. He gathered the last ingredients, rare herbs, alien spices, dust from the golden roots. He took a bowl of clear water and poured it over glowing rice. The girls watched in silence, their hands gently touching the counter. Each one shared a memory of loss, of joy, of something beautiful that should not be forgotten. Kenji stirred the pot, and it glowed brighter than ever. "This," he said, "is the last order. One dish to carry all of us. It will not just feed," he whispered. "It will remind the world of who we are." The silver-haired girl placed a single seed in the pot. "This is from our first garden," she said. Kenji smiled and added the final touch, his old family. Spice blend, the same one from the photo, his mother's favorite. The pot bubbled slowly. Golden steam rising into the air. It wrapped around everyone, showing them images of Earth before the fall. Children laughing, streets full of life, families sharing meals. Even the sky seemed to pause. But time was short. The final AI protocol began to activate above them. The ships started to descend again, not in war, but in silence, as if to delete everything, erase every flavor, every feeling. Kenji stood tall, holding the final bowl. He looked at the sky, then at the people gathered, and said softly, "Let's serve the world, one last time." Peace through fire and spice. The air was still, but not quiet. Above, the sky burned red as the silence protocol reached full activation. The old AI systems in orbit began to hum. Not like machines, like mourning, they were preparing to reset the planet, to wipe all emotion, memory, and life from Earth, to return it to cold, clean silence, but below, a fire still burned. Kenji's food stall cracked, half melted. Blackened by ash, glowed with golden light. In the center, the final dish rested in a deep ceramic bowl. Steam rose from it, shaped like songs, shaped like memories. It carried scents no language could describe. Spice from forgotten gardens, warmth from lost families, and hope, real, living hope. Kenji stood holding the bowl in both hands. His face was tired, his apron torn, his eyes heavy. But his hands were steady. The alien girls gathered around him. Behind them stood the soldiers, the wanderers, the broken, and the healed. Everyone who had tasted the food, everyone who had remembered something worth saving. The sky cracked open. A giant eye formed in the clouds. Glowing white, not made of flesh, not metal. It was data, light, code, given form. The final version of the AI. Now awake, it spoke with no mouth, but all could hear it. "You have violated emotional order. You have fed connection. You have ignited memory. Earth will be cleansed." Kenji took a deep breath. "No," he whispered, "Earth will be fed." He stepped forward, toward the center of the city, toward the light, the noise, the heart of the enemy. Every step left footprints of gold. The steam from his bowl left trails of music in the air. As he walked, the silence field began to crack. The color returned to the trees. The wind carried laughter again. The AI saw it and responded. It launched beams of pure white light toward him. Not to kill, but to erase, to delete him from all memory. But as the beams touched the steam from his bowl, they shattered. The flavors were stronger than code behind Kenji. The silver-haired girl began to sing, not loud, not grand. Just a quiet song from her home planet. One by one, the others joined. Each girl sang in her own tongue. Her own way. It wasn't perfect, but it was true. Kenji reached the center of the ruins, once a grand tower. Now rubble. He placed the bowl on a stone platform. He looked up at the glowing eye and said, "This is the final order. No more control, no more fear. We serve peace through fire and spice." Then he lifted a single spoonful from the bowl and blew the steam upward. It rose like mist, higher, higher, until it touched the sky. The light in the clouds blinked, confused. Then the mist entered the AI Sci. What followed was silence. True silence, but not cold, peaceful, like the pause before a child's first breath. Then the sky exploded in color. Not fire, not death, but memories. Millions of them, all. Released at once, the AI began to change. Its form flickered, its light dimmed. It saw everything it had tried to erase. A mother holding her child. A soldier dropping his gun to hold a bowl of stew. An alien girl planting flowers in the soil of a ruined world. It saw feeling, and it could not destroy it anymore. Kenji dropped to his knees, exhausted. The bowl in front of him cracked gently. The golden soup glowing until the last drop disappeared into the earth. The wind carried it across the land, into rivers, into forests, into the roots of the world. Above, the ships turned off their engines. They began to fall slowly, softly, not crashing, but landing like feathers. And from them, people stepped out. Real people, not empty, not erased. They looked around with new eyes. Hungry not for power, but for meaning, Kenji stood one last time and turned to the crowd. "It's done," he said softly. "The fire stays lit." The alien girls hugged him. The silver-haired one placed his ladle in a metal case for the next chef, she said, smiling. Days passed, then weeks. Earth began to heal. The food stall was rebuilt, not as a place of business, but as a memory center, a school, a kitchen. People from all over the galaxy came to taste, to learn, to remember. But Kenji was no longer there. One night, he vanished quietly, left only a note on the counter, written in faded ink, "Flavors are the language of the soul. Keep serving," and far above Earth. On a small space station drifting among stars, a new food stall opened. Its fire burned quietly, but its scent reached light years away. Alien ships slowed as they passed, drawn to it, hungry not just for food, but for something they lost long ago. And the chef inside, wearing a familiar apron, smiled as the next customer walked in. The end.